Hello everybody and welcome to another Transformers third party review. In today's video we're taking a look at the Fans Toys Sheridan aka FT-41 Fans Toys interpretation of a masterpiece style Warpath. Pretty much like every Fans Toys review I do, I'm a little bit late to the party on these, but better late than never, I guess, isn't it? We've got Fans Toys 2020. On the front there, we've got Sheridan in his tank and his bot mode, Sheridan on the side. On the back there, we've got a mix of white and grey backdrops. Not really a fan of the shots they've used there. Maybe it's just the way that it's printed. Kablam! Boosh! Bada boom! Very Warpathy indeed. So that's the box. Let's take a look at Warpath himself. And here we have him out of his plastic prison. This is pretty much exactly as he comes out of the box. Just had to move his arms out slightly and rotate his hands. He is a very clean, trim interpretation of Warpath. Don't get me wrong, he looks very screen accurate indeed. He's a very good looking figure. Not Fans Toys' best work, I don't think, but still very nice nonetheless. This is done by QC34, I think it is. Yep, QC34. Let's check this one over, and nothing's falling off yet. So I think it was just QC31 that I had a problem with all the time. Everything arrived and it was kind of broken. There's a few things with the design that personally I'm not a huge fan of, like the single piece hip skirts, etc. So the legs can't come fully forward without lifting the whole front. I don't think in this day and age that's something that we really need. I think maybe that could have been worked into separate pieces, but that's literally me nitpicking. It's still a very gorgeous interpretation of Warpath. He looks sensational. He feels extremely hefty and well put together. I don't have War Dog to compare him to, but I do have the Final Victory version, which in my opinion is still one of the best versions of Warpath. It is probably the closest to a toy version that we've had. War Dog was great, but it was just a complete nightmare to transform. But compared to this guy, War Dog looks like he's done a huge course of kind of Cybertronian steroids, and he is massive in comparison to the build of Sheridan. Now, we don't get a huge amount in the way of accessories for Sheridan. We get his instruction booklet, we get a collector's card, and we get his alien mask as well. Very similar to what we've been getting from the other third-party companies as well. And that just comes in and tabs over from the Hoist Goes to Hollywood episode. It does look cool, doesn't it? It's just a very trim, buff figure. I mean, he looks hench. Really nice mix of diecast and plastics in there. Loads of heft around the thighs. These are all very robust. I mean, we know we're going to get an excellent build quality with Fans Toys. That pretty much goes without a doubt. And if there is a problem with the figure, they're also one of the better companies to contact for aftermarket sales and replacement parts as well. I think that's half the reason they do as well as they do, because there are companies out there which are kind of easily on par with Fans Toys in terms of design, etc. But it's the kind of the aftercare and the overall build quality, I think, which is why people pay through the roof for aftermarket prices. Something I don't still quite understand. I mean, I've seen some of those iron die bots, some of the G2 ones go for ridiculous money. Each to their own. I guess each to their own. A lot of Fans Toys collectors out there which kind of take on that Pokemon mantle and got to catch them all. Now, starting off our string of comparisons, here he is along with the Final Victory version of Warpath. Now, a lot of people mock the Final Victory version, but that's like a $30 toy. A big difference in price, and to be honest with you, I was actually more than happy with him for my Warpath. He's a really good scale. It's just not until you have the Fans Toys one in hand that you realise that he is just kind of lacking that a little something. But as far as like homage to the toy versions go, he's exceptional. I mean, if you are on that kind of toy push and you're collecting the toy style MP figures, like X-Trans now doing their kind of toy versions of the Stunticons, etc., I would go for this guy for your toy Warpath, because his vehicle mode especially really does hit so many nostalgic vibes. I mean, my only real gripe is maybe he is a little bit too big for some of those mini bots, but that being said, I mean, he does look exceptional, especially if you get the likes of the X-Trans kind of metallic finish on their sea spray, and we've got the DX9 version of Power Glide as well with that kind of pearlescent look. These all look really nice together. I mean, it's all dependent on what you want. You can go through frame by frame looking at G1 episodes, and not once do any of their characters kind of match a particular scale. I know there's a set scale that they're meant to follow, but meant to and actually does, those are two very different things in the G1 continuity. Now, getting up close and personal with Warpath, we've got a really nice looking head sculpt. Really do like what they've done there. Really clean paint applications there as well. Lots of nice range on that head. Quizzical tilting, left and right, loads of rotation. The shoulders do come out. They're on this kind of pivoting hinge within the arm. So it's a lot of space there, enough of a range to get a kind of natural motion. Quite happy with that. We do have a bend on the elbow, again just beyond 90 degrees, which is good, and there is an upper bicep rotation in there as well. We do get a rotation on the wrist, albeit mine are extremely tight, and we do get the fingers kind of pinned. We get a waist rotation, again albeit extremely tight, but we get a really nice abdominal crunch in amongst all that as well. Something I wasn't really expecting on a bot this size. My gripes come when it comes to the hip skirts, to move those legs. You've got a cut in the leg, so you can move the leg forward slightly without having to lift the skirt, but to get a decent range you do have to lift it up on both sides. We come out to the side, there's an upper thigh rotation. This is all friction joints as well, very stiff friction joint, but no ratchets here and there at all, just all friction. We get a bend on the knee, and my particular model does have a lot less motion in this leg. I really don't want to be digging around in there, but I can't really get it much beyond that, whereas on this leg it goes all the way up. I have had a look. I don't think I've transformed anything incorrectly under there. I just don't really want to push that in case it breaks something. Maybe I'll have to have a look at the screws, take those apart and have a look. I know some people were having problems with some of the legs on these. I just thought that I would be safe. Maybe I was wrong, but we have ankle pivot, and we go up and down on there as well. Really kind of nice solid feet as well. We've got nice long heel spurs. Everything does look and hold together as it should. Especially love, I know there are any friction joints on the thighs, etc., but the way they hold, he just really does look nice and dynamic, doesn't he? I mean, that's a really fabulous, sturdy stance. Now to get him transformed up, I'm going to straighten all of this off again. We're going to put everything back to the kind of zero position, back to how we started. We're going to look at these legs, and there's a small tab just on each of the legs. These just come undone. That just opens up, and you can see we're now free up this tab section here. See, it just lines up with these grooves. So we have his legs coming out on the side of the knee, like so. It's a bit of an odd look for him, but needs must. I want to flip open these tabs. Like so. Allows this to roll outwards, and these turn 180 degrees. with the legs kind of bent around. This here is going to come up, it's going to come up to a hinge, it's going to come down like so, and then this is going to bend on this hinge here, and then that's just going to tab in, securing the leg firmly in at both of those points. The ankles are on a sliding hinge. I'll apply a little bit of force, just enough to slide that down like so. This panel here is going to fold down, and then we've got a pin here, and this part here is separate as well. Basically this needs to come down like so and rock on that hinge like that, so it tilts upwards, so it's away from the body section. And then with this panel now extended, bring this down, and that's going to slide up, and there's a tab just in here that's going to push and locate, and these are just going to slide inwards, and these are going to tab in, and that's all going to just tab and lock into position, forming that tank track. We have this smaller tread piece here that's going to roll around, and that's going to tuck up and hide on the inside of the body like so, making sure that his backpack is straight here and then diagonal here, as opposed to kind of diagonal and then diagonal. We need to lift this backpack piece up, so it lifts up nicely like so. These chest panels on the side here lift up on both sides, again just grabbing down where this kind of peg section is here, and that allows this piece to come all the way up. And these here, they're what we tab in when he's in robot mode. That's what holds everything into place into those three sections on that torso. It's not the most drastic of clearance here, but there's a tab just behind his head. You want to lift that piece up. So if you just push down on top of his head, you can lift these chest panel pieces up, and that'll all come up and above his headpiece. This panel here will then come up like so. This here is going to come up again, and this is going to rotate 90 degrees, and then we're going to rotate that back. And with that round the side, we can now bring this backpack piece down, and there's enough room to get that through like so. And now that it's through, we can bring this around to the front and bring this back around to the front. Basically, you have to have it at the side, otherwise this lip gets in the way of this piece threading through. Warpath's head can then rotate, and this is then going to compress and go down inside that turret. This piece fully extends outwards like so, it just lips around, and then there's another piece under there as well. The waist can also come undone. That comes around, and that's going to come out to the front. And with this compressed down, so you've got the silver bit touching the red, there are these tabs here. These are your vehicle mode tabs. So those are going to come in, and that's what you're aiming for. You're aiming to line those up, and there's also tabs on the inside here. So let's start with one side first. Let's see if we can get this lined up and tabbed in. That's in. Get the front panel of the tank lined up like so. There we go. And that's going to come in, and we'll do this one last. Get this side, make sure the hip skirts are down and out of the way. Get this side lined up as well. There we go. That's in nicely. That's all in. Yep. That's in, and then we can push, close that section off like that, and that's the front of the tank. Now, with this nice bend on the elbow, I still like the fact that it slides down, so it gives us more than what we actually need, which is good. That's more than 90 degrees. You can actually untab this piece here. The fist is just going to flip up on the inside. That's then going to close off, and we're going to just compress that back inwards. That's that rotating shoulder hinge. That's going to turn 180 degrees, and he goes this way. Look, there we go. That's going to come all the way around like so. This is going to come all the way down using those double hinges. So bring that all the way down like so. That's going to come in, that's going to come in, and they sit nicely in that centerpiece. Rotate this part up, and like the instructions say, this is going to line upwards, and it says to shrink, which basically means that the hinge collapses within this void like so. These hinges here are going to come down, and they're going to come down like so. God, that one is so stiff. There we go. And this is going to open up, and this is going to come, and to get these right, this needs to go up, and that one needs to go up, and then those are going to come down flat like that. And that's how it's going to compress. As you can see, there's small lips just on this section here. That's going to slide underneath like so. That's going to line up, and then there's also some holes underneath here. With these bits together, they're going to line up and tab in on there as well. So let's push and compress. There, that's that side. There we go, that's in. That's in. These are nicely together, and then we can bring this down and then fold these panels outwards, and those are going to push and tab in on there like so. We then lift the front of the tank up and extend the turret, and there we have Warpath in his tank mode. What a solid chunky little monkey. Not the easiest of transformations, considering how compact everything is. I mean, it does definitely work nicely. It's a good looking tank. I like the way it kind of slants up on both sides. It really does tidy up quite nicely. Not a lot of visible bot mode, but at the same time, A to B isn't exactly enjoyable. That's what I've noticed about a lot of the Vans toys figures. They look exceptional in both modes, but they're maybe slightly over engineered to get that amazing look. We do have a little hatch on the back of Warpath's head as well, so the tank can open up. We don't have a driver or anything to go in now though, but that's pretty decent, isn't it? Love all the detail on there. Really nicely done, Vans toys. And here he is with the Final Victory tank mode. Absolutely adore that one still. Still one of my favourite G1-esque vehicle modes. Got a lot of range on this one as well, and you can also kind of have him up and have the head out, etc. as well. You can't quite get the arms out though, it doesn't really work as well as that, but that's kind of my G1 vehicle. I do have a little vehicle shelf going on, and Vans Toys is definitely going to be my bot mode. That's very kind of hyper realistic, isn't it, considering? But what do we think of the paint? Do we think that the kind of dark metallic, is that kind of G1-esque, or are we going to get a toon version? It's going to look kind of this colour. Depends on what fans want really, isn't it? I mean, personally I like the toon colours, but that then puts you off buying the initial release from Vans Toys, thinking that, oh, it's okay, they're going to come out with a toon colour next, but there's never really any guarantees, is there? But yeah, I definitely like how that looks. The only real issue I have with any of these tank bots is when you transform them up, they're never really going to scale in Masterpiece with vehicles. It's just something you're going to kind of have to lose out on. I mean, the nearest we're going to get is the likes of Blitzwing, and he's a massive bot. He doesn't have that same sort of stature as Warpath. But yeah, I like how that looks. Its scale is well off with these two in my opinion, but bot mode, fantastic. Cannot complain at all. Don't overly enjoy the transformation at all. If you're happy to not transform him, then I'd keep him in bot mode. It's A to B isn't super duper complex, it's just not overly enjoyable. It's more difficult on camera to get everything folded and everything in view, but huge lump of die cast and plastic, and again, Fans Toys have done an exceptional job. Thanks again to Showz for making this review possible. I have included a link in the description below where this can be purchased. I'll also include a Fans Toys playlist up here so you can check out other Fans Toys reviews. And until next time, for myself and the rest of the Collectables household, stay safe. Goodbye.